sometimes people hear about our mission to spread joy or culture of joy, and they wonder if everybody is just like happy and laughing and jazz hands all the time. And, that's not, of course, the reality of it, nor is that what we're striving for. For us, joy is more about a glass half full perspective on things, just really appreciation, gratitude, positivity, and seeing possibility. So we want to be a company and a culture that leads with possibility, leads with positivity, constructiveness, as opposed to some cultures which can be a little bit more fear-driven or focused on the negative. We really want to be inspiring both our teams and also consumers with what's possible.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Today we look at innovation and disruption through the lens of embracing failure. Have you ever thought about the importance of failure in your organization? Well, it is a part of the path forward. I have failed massively in my career, and every one of those moments have been a lesson that I really wish I didn't have to learn the hard way, but I did. And allowing others to fail and embracing failure across the organization will improve your capacity to innovate and disrupt across the markets. Today we have a marketing company with us, Movers+Shakers. They were number 78 on the Inc. list this year, one of the fastest growing agencies out there. And we talk about, embracing failure and creating a culture of joy. We have their co-founder with us. It's Evan Horowitz. And I talk about, what does it really take to make people feel comfortable with who they are and being bold and being brave. I really love this conversation because it will help you become a stronger leader, be more intentional, because you understand what plays in the background of embracing failure and creating joy across the organization. Now, stay tuned for that inside this episode. But before we get there, let me just remind you that if you are a leader and you know that you could play at a higher level, you know that you could be more confident, you could be more focused, you could be more intentional, whatever it is, those things that you know that you could play at a higher level, I'd love to talk to you about that journey, that whole, how do you create a bridge from here to there? This is the focus of my life. I've spent the last 10 years working with fast growth leaders and founders and their teams to grow faster than they even believe possible. And that is all because I have learned some things and I have learned to get to the heart of things much quicker than what they've used in the past. And all the people around them that they just don't have people to talk to about the things we talk about. It really does help them grow the kind of companies and help be the leaders that they really need to be. So if you want to be an extraordinary leader, just go to genehammett.com and schedule your call. I'd love to talk to you about what's going on right now and help you build that plan. This is not a sales conversation. I'll say that clearly. I don't really want to sell you on anything. I want to serve you to really help you understand what's getting in the way of your move forward. And if we do that well enough, I can offer you a chance to look at, working together, or we could just put that on the table or the back burner for down the road. But either way, we'd have a relationship to be able to start from. So just go ahead and schedule that call, genehammett.com, and love to talk to you about your business and your leadership. Now, here's the interview with Evan. Hi, Evan. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. We are going to have a great interview here for the podcast. Tell us a little bit about the company first. What is Movers+Shakers?
Movers+Shakers is a creative agency on a mission to spread joy. So everything we do is about putting positivity out into the world, connecting those positive emotions back to the brands we work with to drive more brand love. We've quickly become the number one fastest growing agency in the world, according to Adweek, Inc. number 78 fastest growing company. And our North Star is about connecting brands to culture. So everything that we do is really designed to create buzz, cool factor, cultural relevance for our clients. And that's really what's fueled our growth, is that ability to make brands more culturally relevant.
Love this concept and phenomenal growth. When you set out to do an agency, did you have growth in mind, or is this just something that has kind of happened because of you found the right position in the marketplace?
We definitely had growth in mind, but not this type of growth. I wouldn't have ever dreamed of being the fastest growing ad agency on the planet. Not upset about it, but it's bigger than my dreams for sure.
Well, you said something that we want to put a little bit of a focus on today, and it really is about something you do for your clients, which is about joy and positivity. But you also bring that into the culture of the company. So what is joy and positivity across your company?
It's a great question. I think it's good to define first what we mean by that, because sometimes people hear about our mission to spread joy or culture of joy, and they wonder if everybody is just like happy and laughing and jazz hands all the time. And, that's not, of course, the reality of it, nor is that what we're striving for. For us, joy is is more about a glass half full perspective on things, just really appreciation, gratitude, positivity, and seeing possibility. So we want to be a company and a culture that leads with possibility, leads with positivity, constructiveness, as opposed to some cultures which can be a little bit more fear driven or focused on the negative. We really want to be inspiring both our teams and also consumers with what's possible.
And so there's a lot of correlation between what you're doing for your clients and the way you spread the word as an agency and the way you engage your employees. Is that right?
We try to be consistent in that. Yeah. And the values that we have, it applies to the work that you see in the world. So when we put a marketing campaign out there, we want it to be upholding our values, but also that's how we treat our employees. That's how we treat each other. That's how we engage with our client. And we're very selective about who we have on the team, both in terms of employees, but also in terms of clients, because we want to make sure there's real alignment there.
Another element behind all of this is you have a different kind of culture where you're really embracing failure. And I'm going to take the most positive version of that because I know that some people immediately go, well, why would you want to embrace failure? But there is a reason to do that. What do you say to someone when they a little bit question this approach to failure you have?
Well, for me, it's very much aligned with spreading joy. I think we've all worked in companies that you're scared to mess up because you might get yelled at or punished. I've certainly worked in companies like that. And we want the opposite. We want everybody to be bold and brave and to do good things and great things. We're a company that built our brand on innovation and disruption. And all these things come with failure. So it's important for us to embrace failure for two reasons. One, because that's the foundation of innovation and the disruption that we're bringing to the market that's made us become the number one fastest growing marketing agency is based on innovation, which requires failure. And the second reason is that that's really holistically how you create a culture of joy is you have a team that celebrates wins and you celebrate losses both, because that way you're always celebrating, you're always seeing the good, and you're always moving yourselves forward.
Now, we all get the celebrating wins, but what do you mean exactly by celebrating the losses?
Well, first of all, it means taking big risks and encouraging the team to take risks, encouraging our clients to take risks. And then when the inevitable happens, that things don't go right, you face plant along the way. You don't punish people, but you just learn from it. Or you go as far as celebrating it. We have a tradition on Fridays called Faceplant Fridays, where people are encouraged in our all hands meeting to share faceplant, things that went wrong. I shared, recently showing up to a client's Zoom meeting with another client's Zoom background on, and it was a competitor. So silly things like that to, bigger project that didn't go well, and, it blew up, but we learned from it. And that's that sort of just transparency and communication and upholding of failure that really helps set the tone for the whole company.
Now, Evan just talked about don't punish people. If people think that they're going to be punished for doing something innovative or maybe getting it a little off, it really does keep you from growing at the pace you want to. They've grown really fast because they've embraced this. If you go back and look at some of the studies around leadership and what high-performing teams do well, one of the biggest of those is a Google study on high-performing teams, and psychological safety was the number one factor of fast growth teams and really performing at the highest levels. That means that leadership and the people inside there are creating a space of no judgment and around these conversations that are really open. People don't have fear of failure. Think about that for a second across your organization, what that would mean if people didn't fear failure, but they were able to move forward through all of this and share their learnings at a speed that allows you to grow faster than you are today. Back to Evan. Now, it's one thing to have these insights at the very top of the company. How do you make sure that they cascade down across the different levels and different types of styles of leadership?
I think hiring is a really important piece there. One of our superpowers, I believe, is finding people who really are mission aligned in terms of their values and their style. And I think that when you look at something like joy or positivity, different people, in my experience different amounts of that in their lives and bring different amounts into the room. And those are things that are trainable, I do believe, but harder to train. And so I think it does start with hiring. And then once people are here, it's, I think, the culture that comes from the top and it does trickle down. I've worked in companies where everybody's looking over their shoulder because they're wondering if their boss is going to yell at them, because their boss is wondering if that person's boss is going to yell at them. And, I think we've done a good job at creating a culture here where people know that they're not going to be yelled at, they're not going to be punished. And that allows everybody to spread their wings more.
I love the fact that you guys embrace failure because I've seen such a positivity of, the impact it makes across the organization. Looking at your own journey as a leader, I'm sure you've had some inflection points. You told me you used to be a coach and now you you have an agency that has taken off really in a massive way. What's one inflection point you could share with us that really helped you shift how you lead and how you engage with your team?
What sort of inflection point are you looking for?
So we all go through times that are, you learn some lesson, or it didn't work out doing it one way. And so we end up having to change the way we look at it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So as you've had some changes across your journey here of this fast growth company, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example.
So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to fill some of the dead space here. One of the inflection points I share with you is, I end up losing everything. And I know this is pretty drastic, but I end up, having to look at my life and really start over and look at many more things other than just money, just building another successful company. And I got more purpose driven and aligned with that because this money had been ripped away from me or stolen. I don't know, has your brain been able to wrap around an inflection point that you could share with us?
Sure. An inflection point in my career was my last corporate job, where I had essentially checked all the boxes for what I was looking for in my career. I had the job I wanted, career path I wanted, the growth that I had been looking for, and I didn't feel fulfilled by that. And that was a wake-up call for me. And because I realized that it wasn't by checking those boxes that I would find fulfillment. And so that gave me a lot more bravery to go out on my own path and go off the beaten path and take risks to find things that were more truly mission aligned with myself.
Love that. And that's what has allowed you to create something as special as Movers and Shakers today, I would imagine.
Sorry, I think we had a connection issue.
That would allow you to create the same kind of impact you've had here at Movers and Shakers from that new thinking, right?
Yes, exactly.
So when you think about, how you lead now and how you create this space where people are psychologically safe, that, failure is okay. What are some of the things we would see across the organization?
Well, I think you'll see a lot of risk taking, people pushing their comfort zone, their personal comfort zone, whatever that is, trying things that they haven't tried before, whether that's a type of work that we're doing for clients, pitching ideas that they wouldn't have felt comfortable even pitching in a past job, and then executing those. That's really the hallmark of the culture that we're creating.
Now, Evan just talked about values meetings. You may think this is overkill, but imagine that you have a group of people when they first start, they are actually understand what the values are, how they can adhere to them, what to do when people get out of alignment, how they'll be recognized, and all of the aspects of your values. Now, you may think that you don't have time for this, but I want you to think about this. It does take a little bit more time up front, but if they are able to make decisions without you in the room, if they're able to feel empowered, if they're able to live by the values and they're done on a systematic basis or have rituals around them, it really will give you a lot more context for growth as your company grows. And you don't have to be there to make every decision for them because they know how to do it and use the values as they move forward in their careers. Think about that for a moment. Now back to the interview with Evan. Let me ask you another question, Evan. When you think about how you want to lead forward and as your company continues to grow, what do you see on the horizon? Something that you think might have to shift from the way it is today?
Well, one thing that we're really implementing right now is a lot of process and procedure. We've grown so fast from 0 employees to about 70 employees in a year and a half that we have very little systematic process. And the processes we had a year ago when we were 15 people don't make sense anymore now at 70. So that's been a big focus of ours is creating systematic processes and best practices.
Yeah, that's a big part of creating stability across a fast growth company is going back and going, okay, what are the foundational elements that we need to work on? One of the things I feel like you got right was the focus on values. You're using values for hiring and also development of people that you mentioned before. How early by headcount were you really focused on the values of this organization?
From 0. I mean, even before we hired anybody, we're really focused on our values. It's just important to me and my co-founder.
What do you say to founders or CEOs that would say, you know what, we're too busy getting things done. We'll get to that when we get to 20 employees or 50 employees. What would you respond back?
Well, I would say you're embedding the values of your organization from when you start, whether it's intentionally and consciously or not. That those founders, it sounds like their values is getting things done, and that's the highest value for them. And so they are embedding those values in their organization. organization.
Yeah, they're there whether you have intention around them or not. Hopefully, when you are intentional about them, the way you guys came up with it, you begin to hire people that are aligned around these values, which you've seen. When you think about values, there's a lot of research I'm doing with values. I'm just curious, do you have any rituals or anything that you do systematically as it relates to values, the way you recognize people or the way you do any kind of onboarding or hiring? How would you see values across your organization?
We have some, but it's also a question we're actively exploring. One place where I think we do well is in the onboarding process. Within the first few week or month of people starting, we get the new hires together for a values meeting where either me or sometimes both me and my co-founder will meet with the new hires and actually talk through the values of the company. We have a little deck at one value per slide with a bunch of things that expand and what does that really mean to us? And that's a really amazing meeting because the people have been here for a little bit of time and inevitably say, wow, I'm actually seeing this. I'm actually feeling this, and are able to add their experience of each value. And that creates a really rich discussion.
So what I'm picking up on that is that it's not something that you do the day that they come on board, but you probably have a bunch of hires each month and you have one session where all the most recent hires that haven't been to this values meeting show up.
That's right.
How long is that meeting?
An hour.
When you do this, are you sharing, stories around this and really, providing depth, or is it just talking about it at a surface level?
We're trying to share anecdotes of times when we've lived it, either big moments, moments when we fired a client because there was an alignment with our values, or just those small day-to-day moments, that come up in how do you work with your colleague, because I do think that those stories make it much more real.
I see that values are something that are such an important part of fast growth companies. It's really, you're in alignment with your peers around this when you have grown as fast as you have to have the kind of focus you have on values. What is one thing that we haven't touched on as it relates to you spreading joy, you embracing failure, and how your company is able to grow as fast as it has?
I would just say it's hard. I think we're talking about makes it sound like things are systematic, but it's hard. And it always feels like we're pushing the limits and about to fall apart at the seams. So it's not so structured as it might sound from the conversation we've had.
Well, I think those that are living it would probably agree that there's a lot of chaos around this, and that you are not able to put out all the fires as they burn. Sometimes you have to let things burn as you focus on certain pieces of the business growing, systematize those, come back to it kind of as you need to. Well, Evan, I really appreciate you being here to share your perspective on leadership and culture, and I really have learned a lot from you today. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
I want to take a moment here to reflect back on what I am picking up from Evan's interview. And it really is just about, being an intentional leader, having these values from the very beginning and hiring the right people and having the kind of conversations where people are able to be bold and be brave because, he is in the marketing world. And this changes, I think, faster than technology because marketing, what used to work a month ago may not even work today, or at least it starts falling off. And so you're always having to push the barriers of innovation. And he's got to engage his team in a very different way. And hopefully you've learned something from this interview. If you have any questions about what you're doing next within your company, whether it be the foundational elements, the systematizing, or even how you use values and those rituals that we talked about, I'd love to talk to you about that specifically. It's best done in a one-on-one conversation so that we can get really lasered into what would help you move forward. This is not a sales pitch. That really is a chance for me to connect with you and serve you and build a relationship over time. If you have any questions about that, just go to genehammett.com and schedule your call. Look forward to talking to you. If you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.